Welcome everybody. It's day 3 and we're team 1 here talking about the digital QS. We have 3 speakers, or even 4 if I include myself, I guess. Myself and Elia, González Salas, my business partner, we are up first with the Fifth Dimension BIM 5D, followed by Gervase from the University of Ulster, and he is talking about reimagining quantity surveying, so that's going to be quite interesting. And then followed by our friends in MagiCAD, Animesh, and he's going to be talking about creating opportunities for successful adoption of 5D BIM for estimators and QSs. So really looking forward to the day. And if you have any questions, of course, get them in the chat. The more communication we have, the better it will be for everybody, I hope. So I hope you learn a lot. I'm looking forward to learning a lot also. I suppose we kick off in a few minutes here with the Fifth Dimension. And Elia, you're ready with your presentation, I guess. Myself and Elia are going to present this. One of the key aspects of the digital QS, of course, is reimagining what our profession as quantity surveyors and cost managers is going to be like in the future, with the ever progressing development of digitization and digitalization. Our profession is changing, whether we like it or not. So it's really interesting to see and to hear what everybody has to say about this and their opinion. And we'd like to hear your opinion also. So as I said, get that stuff into the chat as we go through these presentations, and we will come back to them at the end. It is a tight enough schedule. We have 15 minutes for each presentation, so they're going to be coming at you quick and fast. And then we'll have a bit of a roundup at the end for about 10 minutes from 12:05 to 12:15 Irish time. So hopefully we get some good debates and dialogue going between all of us. I'm just curious to know if we can kick off early, or do we keep right to the time of 11:20? Perhaps Elaine, you can let me know. No worries. So we'll jump in because I have a feeling some of these are going to run over time. So we have 3 minutes at the start here. So we'll just jump in, and hopefully we can collect it by the time we get to 12:05. And I'm going to do something really fancy with my screen here and change. So I'm 2 people today, mediator, and I am the Fifth Dimension along with Elia.
Multitasking.
Multitasking is right, yeah. So Elia, maybe you can share the screen there. You probably already have. It's just I haven't seen it up here.
It's already on, yeah.
Excellent. So I'll just continue speaking since I've already kicked it all off, I guess. We're going to talk about the Fifth Dimension. If you just jump to the next screen for us. The digital QS and the Fifth Dimension. The Fifth Dimension is a company myself and Elia and one of our other business partners have set up. You can see here just a quick introduction to who I am, I guess. My name is Ross Griffin. I am the founder of Cosmos, and Cosmos, as you can see here, is a specialist digital cost and quantity surveying consultancy. We're based in Denmark and Ireland. We were set up about almost 3 years ago. And today, though, we're going to talk about the Fifth Dimension, and again, the founder of the Fifth Dimension, and that's a specialist cost data collection and analytical cloud-based software, which we're going to present. So yeah, Elia.
And I'm Elia González. I'm also co-founder of Cosmos, and I'm really looking forward to what the next presentation Gervase is going to present, as we have been labeling us as digital quantity surveyors since we started with this very nice project. Recently also co-founder of the Fifth Dimension in a shift of my professional career, something that I'm passionate about, which is data management and all the aspects of the data environment and the collaborative environment where everything merges together.
So apart from this, we were identifying challenges that we see in our everyday life as Cosmos. So traditional quantity surveying practices and the development and research behind the Fifth Dimension, we identified 4 major challenges here. And one is digitizing the commercial management process so that the entire project cost evolution is collected, reported, and stored in one cloud-based solution. Now, for all you QSs out there, you can have a think about your daily activity and how many of you actually store your cost information in a digitized way so that you can access it later or at the beginning of the next project, or how many different tools do you use along your process to manage costs. So that's going to be interesting, and also for MagiCAD later.
Another of the challenges that we have identified in all these years of experience working on the field is how do we link all these processes? How do we make the information to talk to each other, not only after the digital twin has been created, but from day one, from the day that the inception, the project starts, information is created, information starts to be generated, especially from the course perspective, which is what we are focusing on. How do we track it? How do we store it? And how do we create analytics and benchmarking so that we can not only store it and archive it, but actually make use of it for the future, for the next project, learn from it and improve the process and the outcome of whatever is produced on the design.
Yeah. So as QSs and cost managers, we manage quite a lot of parts of the commercial. So we have budgets and estimates and cash flows and risk catalogs and contracts and invoices and benchmarking in the early stages, and traditional project information, and of course time
category of the project area, different figures,
Absolutely. And right now within our daily process, we have identified that these are all disconnected in somewhat. Yes, we might use Excel for quite a big proportion of them. Yes, we might use other aspects of Microsoft Office. Yes, we might have estimating tools like I think what Animesh might talk about later. All of these tools, but they're all disconnected. And the value of the cost information, we want to connect. We want to be able to connect everything so that it is standardized, it is stored in one location, it is accessible to people. So that's one of the things that we are focusing on here. So the next challenge is, how do we improve our budget accuracy as well as our project control while also storing valuable commercial information along the project lifecycle? Right today, there's benchmarking available, of course, but it's not collected on the project as a process on the project. It's collected after the project is complete, or even legacy projects, information is taken out. What we want to do is collect information as we develop the project, as we control along the project lifecycle. So as we're doing our project, we want to be able to collect at the same time.
We want decisions to be made before the issue has been created. We want decisions to be made on facts, and the only way to do that is to actually collect real-time information of how the project is developing.
And we all know as QSs, of course, if you just go back one Elia a second, we all know as QSs, of course, that we use, for example, Excel to build cost estimates in the early stages. We might use CostX as our estimating tool for the preparation of bills of quantities or cost plans, or other software like Qubit or Vico or QBcost. There is
open source plugins embedded into Revit or ArchiCAD or any other design tool.
Absolutely. And we're not talking about replacing them. They are the specialist software products for what they do. We're talking about taking that information into this kind of reporting and storing platform so that it is collected and stored for along the project lifecycle, but also for future projects to build your internal database and so on. So that national database, we're talking about it for years, and the international database is what we're really interested in.
It's about standardizing the input as well, right? The information may be created from different specialized softwares and coming from different projects with different BIM execution plan requirements, different naming conventions, depending on the clients that everybody is working with. And that is okay, because in the end is to fit some of the needs of the specific projects. But this will be aiming to standardizing all the information. How do you always name the category of your projects the same way? How do you collect the information with similar or with restricted or defined and clear parameters and criteria, so that whenever you are comparing side-by-side projects, you are actually looking at the same, are apples and apples, and not mixed different criteria or parameters that may lead to confusing and not so accurate end figures.
This standardization isn't something that we have created. Of course, we've taken it from the industry. The development of ICMS over the last number of years has been a huge step forward in standardizing on a global sense. So the ICMS for us is the foundation of this standardization of cost collection, project information collection, and so on. So if we can standardize our entire project, our entire projects, especially for us here in Cosmos, that's what we're doing, that's our intention, we can then collect this information. So with these challenges we have identified, our output and result is the fifth dimension. And the fifth dimension is, as I mentioned before, it's not an estimating tool. We're not trying to replace the estimating tools that are available. We're not trying to replace the planning tools that are available. What we're trying to do is connect with them to bring that very valuable cost information into a cloud-based solution. So the fifth dimension focuses on the budgets and estimates through the entire project lifecycle. You can import those budgets and estimates from Excel or other software using CSV. You can manual input. Our intention is to create APIs to different software so that it can be done automatically once the estimates are complete. And these estimates and budgets are tracked every time you update the estimate and budget. So you can get a dashboard overview of the project development. Along with your cash flow, there'll be a risk management section where you can track your risks on a log basis that will do a Monte Carlo analysis that will simulate what your contingency and risk requirement for your project will be. It will track your contracts and invoices. Again, they can be imported from either your SAP accountancy system and or manually inputted or imported from Excel from the project QS. The project information is very valuable here, again, following the ICMS standards. What is the project? How is it categorized? What's the location, size? All of these attributes that really define what your project is, they will have an impact on how you benchmark later in the future. Import the time schedule, and we're not just talking about the construction time schedule. What we don't look at the industry today is the entire project time schedule. That includes the design stage, the inception, the design, the procurement, and so on, to understand, can we do better? Can we add more value? So we're going to track the entire time schedule here and then analyze that as the projects begin to complete. Change management and value engineering, of course, very important. So digitize and automate the traditional tools. So remove the need for complex Excel spreadsheets for budgeting and estimating and controlling, and remove the need for monthly reports, remove the need for monthly presentations, and remove the need for project status emails. All of this is available by just logging on. So your client can log on at any time to see their project and situation. And of course, the database tool for benchmarking. You're collecting valuable information every time you make a change on the project. So the greater your project grows, the better it is. Sorry, Elia, we're 5 minutes left. And then to take static information, Excel, Word, PDF, emails, it's all static. It's very difficult to analyze that information. So we want to digitize that so we can run analytics on the documentation or the value information to create more value in the project, and then improve how we benchmark and estimate in the future. Create the visuals for each of the project representations. So you can see here some
We are all
examples.
used to spreadsheets, right? With two numbers. This is about to make it more digestible, not only for the people that are used to deal with all these numbers and all these figures, but also for the people that are also taking decisions based on these figures and numbers. Visualizing creates a great picture of what is the status, very quick, very fast, take decisions based on facts. That's what I am for.
Yeah. And of course, for large investors, we're looking at standardizing across the entire business level so that all your portfolios are standardized, meaning that all your projects are standardized, meaning that all your buildings are standardized. And I mean buildings in terms of how we break down and cost our buildings at building level, project level, portfolio level. So an entire overall database for all your projects, a tracking tool and database. So each project is feeding into the centralized database.
It's about creating accuracy of what information is collected for each of the projects that are coming from an entire portfolio. It can be globally, different stakeholders involved, producing information in different ways, but it is about collecting it all in a single source of truth, following the same criteria, following the same standards and parameters, so that when you look at it, you are certain that you are comparing everything on the same basis.
And the intention here, of course, is the future. The bigger the database gets, the data set gets, we'll be able to run algorithms to predict cost, risk, and time. It's the future, I guess, for what we see our discipline and our role as value managers as opposed to cost managers in the future. Yeah, next one. So we're a few minutes.
It is still being quantity surveyors and commercial managers. It is just shifting on what we can bring value today, right? It's not. It's shifting a little from the traditional way of doing things.
So,
yeah.
So who is the fifth dimension for then? Well, obviously it's for quantity surveying practices who want to digitize their cost reporting and build relevant and accurate cost databases. It's for developers who want to track their entire portfolios in a standardized approach and increase the value by analyzing each of these projects. Public authorities, of course, for transparency and governance. It's a value to them, and also for investors who want to track their project and their investment in a transparent way. 1 minute left, so yeah. So the fifth dimension.
Visualizing, right? So what better way to actually visualize what we are talking about than just, dump a video and,
Basically, visualization. So there is music with this, of course, but you guys won't be able to hear it, unfortunately. So you're all going to have to guess what type of music we put against the video.
You're not missing anything, because what matters is what is on the screen, I suppose.
As you can see, the elements that it tracks, it's parts of the visuals we have shown you guys earlier, the levels of detail that it tracks. The intention here, of course, is that it's accessible to anybody at any time, and that means that the commercials are now open. They're not controlled by a single entity anymore, or a single person on a project. They're open to the people that have access to these projects, like the client and other stakeholders, if it is required, meaning that we become more transparent on our commercials and economy. And that's the key going forward, especially in the digitized world, and especially with the developments of BIM from our perspective. This is what's going to influence the digital QS in the future, we think. And imagine if you had every single project you've ever worked on was stored in this database. You could analyze every project that you've ever worked on going back in history. Imagine how powerful that would be for you as an advisor going into your clients and into your meetings, saying that you can benchmark residential projects, every apartment block that's ever been built in Dublin, for example. That has to be a powerful tool going forward for developers, investors, public institutions, and practices. If you have your phone with you, you can just come up with your phone and take a picture of this, and it'll direct you to our LinkedIn page and websites and what have you relating to the fifth dimension.
You can follow of how we are trying to disrupt this traditional way of doing things and move into the digital side, which is very exciting, and it is coming. Everybody's is gonna be involved in it sooner or later. So looking forward to it, and hearing. Yeah. Also, if you have any questions, please reach out to us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, guys. So back to me, and I will change my screen here again and go back to this. So that was us or them, depending on which way you look at it. And so Gervase is going to jump in now and present his. And Gervase is from the University of Ulster, and very interested to hear his take on reimagining. reimagining quantity surveying. So Gervase, over to you. Your mic is off as well, so you might want to turn that on. And yeah, no problem. You're just sorting that out. Just turn on the sound, the mic there, and we're good to go and go back to presenting.
Okay.
Excellent.
That's
yeah.
me.
So we're good to go, guys. Let's keep those questions coming in, guys. We're going to pick them all up at the end of this. So I can see a few are coming in now. So let's keep that going. So over to you, Gervase. Let's hear what you have to say.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to my presentation on reimagining quantity surveying. Obviously, I'm from Ulster University, and I'm representing my colleagues Sharon Clements, Mark McCain, and Brona Duggan. We're involved in the delivery of the undergraduate programme in quantity surveying and commercial management at Ulster. And the challenge that we face now is producing industry-ready graduates as we move forward. So in order to basically start this process, we conducted a small survey with our final years that were graduating in June past, just to gauge how they felt in terms of their readiness to enter the industry, because in our course, third year is a placement year when students go out into industry and then come back for the final year. So they do have an appreciation of what is required, where the industry is moving in terms of digitisation. So we tried to capture their thoughts in terms of what we need to be doing in terms of keeping the course current and relevant to the quantity surveying profession. So the COVID pandemic has created an opportunity to engage in a new way of working. Obviously, Industry 4.0 or I 4.0 has put a focus on the digital future. It obviously originated in Germany. It focused on the manufacturing industry in terms of making it more relevant in terms of the use of computerization and digitization. And obviously that has moved into the construction sector. And again, as the construction sector is largely dependent on a manufacturing process, again, digitization is a logical progression for the industry. So a digital future, it will challenge the way that we design, procure, construct, and manage the built asset, not only during the construction and design phase, but through its complete life cycle. So the challenge of this digital future is not just the attainment of a new skill set, but to create a sense of identity in that process. So to achieve this will require the reimagining of the professional roles, not only within the industry, but society. Again, a lot of our students have been working on data centers, etc., particularly in the Republic of Ireland, and clients such as Google and Amazon, where digital is intrinsic, will be increasing the drive for the demand for sustainable, resilient cities and high streets, creating a global and digital industry in which the quantity surveying profession has to compete if it's going to remain relevant and make a significant contribution going forward. The reimagining of quantity surveying provides the opportunity to think, behave, and look beyond traditional construction industry remits. It will require diverse skill sets beyond traditional technical competencies. Therefore, the challenge will be providing either undergraduate or postgraduate quantity surveying programs that instill broader adaptable skills, including digitalization, data-driven competencies, and flexibility. The adoption of digital tools has already transformed many practices in the construction industry, and data-driven solutions have become key to enhancing industry performance and client satisfaction. In this rapidly evolving world, those who have Industry 5.0 skills will ultimately succeed, and those without will struggle, and ultimately they will fail going forward. So this is what we were acutely aware of in Ulster, that we need to keep our degree programme relevant and keep it focused in terms of continuous improvement, adaptability and flexibility of the graduates that come from that programme. Therefore, the challenge of embracing Industry 4.0 is the recruiting of competent, high quality staff in the professional sector of construction. These professionals need to be willing to embrace a more diverse and digital skill set. They need to have the flexibility and adaptability to work across what were traditional boundaries. Such diversification will create new opportunities and new markets with new clients in new and emerging industries. So that is ultra important moving forward, that we create that flexibility and adaptability within the graduates that we produce. The challenge of Industry 4.0 will have impacts on academia in terms of producing quantity surveying graduates with these skill sets. At Ulster University, we're currently going through a revalidation process, which I think is termed as a programmatic review in the Republic of Ireland. And it's important to ascertain how the current undergraduates of the programme feel that we are addressing these skill sets. And again, this is where we carried out the survey towards the end of last year in terms of trying to get a student perspective in terms of what we were doing and what we need to do going forward. The research examined the current levels of diverse and digital skills attained by the 65 graduating students from the BSc Honours Quantity Surveying and Commercial Management programme at Ulster University in 2021. The survey examined 4 distinct areas, namely soft skills, which includes communication, organisation, teamwork, self-motivation, leadership, responsibility, problem solving, decisiveness, the ability to work under pressure and to deadlines, and the ability to negotiate. We also asked them about main skills, which covered things like honesty, trustworthiness, commitment, the ability to adapt and be flexible, and accountability. We also asked them about process skills, which included analytical thinking, innovation, active learning, the ability to solve problems, the ability to critically analyze issues such as creativity, the drive and ability to continually improve their knowledge and skill sets. Again, things like data-driven decision-making and ethical reasoning and lifelong learning were also areas that were examined under the process skills. We then moved on to gauging their abilities in terms of technological skills and things like digital tools and practices, their awareness and ability to use big data, artificial intelligence, robotics and automation, augmented reality and virtual reality, their knowledge and skill sets in terms of prefabrication and offsite construction, and other issues such as cloud-based platforms and remedies, BIM-based cost estimates, and basically just being able to use and operate information contained within a BIM model. So it covered a wide range of areas even within these skill sets. A quantitative approach was adopted using an electronic survey with 4 closed-ended questions examining each of the 4 skill sets. And the students ranked their ability on a 5-point Likert scale as either having no ability, a basic ability, an ability just to demonstrate, or whether they felt they had a proficient ability, or in some instances, did they feel they had an expert ability. The results of the survey indicates that respondents generally feel confident about their abilities in probably the first 2 skill sets, the soft and the mindset skill sets. But again, the responses that we received indicate that these still need to be improved. Issues in terms of communication, teamwork and responsibility, and the ability to solve problems. The majority felt they were proficient in that area, although some students felt that they only had the ability to demonstrate that. So there appears to be a greater range of abilities as we moved into the process skills, and in particular the technological skills associated with the application of software, digital platforms, etc. So that was obviously where we were really trying to maybe focus our research in terms of what we needed to do in terms of our programmatic review. It showed a lack of confidence as well. The responses showed a lack of confidence in these technological areas, particularly in the use of technology. There was also instances of indecisiveness and, again, lack of self-motivation in terms of process skills to continually improve and diversify, which obviously as digitisation continues to take hold within the construction industry, students are going to need to have that drive to continually improve and diversify their skill sets, and that will ultimately impact their embracing of the digital revolution that is happening and will continue to happen within construction. So to overcome the issue, education must adapt to meet these evolving changes through greater emphasis on developing digital skills. That has become apparent, and we need to embed a greater level of digital skills throughout our learning in all years of the programme. We need to encourage creativity and innovation, and we need to embed the basic skills of adaptability and versatility in learning, as failure to do so would potentially diminish the role of the quantity surveyor and the profession's contribution to this digital revolution and to the role of quantity surveying moving forward. So to conclude, tertiary education, third level education providers need to further collaborate with industry to enhance these graduate skills and embed them in learning. It will also require attracting students from diverse backgrounds, not just school leavers, but also mature students and graduates from other sectors such as the arts and sciences, to bring their knowledge and learning and skills, as well as their diversity and creativity and experience going forward. So again, it is a challenge for us as educators, but there is obviously in the feedback that we're getting from students and the feedback that we're getting from employers, there's a need to engage with the digital process, and also a need to engage with our stakeholders, employers, in terms of embedding that in the learning, and obviously trying to continually improve that as digitisation progresses in the industry. And thank you. That's my presentation. I look forward to receiving any questions at the end of the session.
Very good, Gervase. Thank you very much for that. Some interesting insights from your study. I have a list of questions here for you already, so we won't take them now. We'll take them later, right? I'm really interested to hear on some of this stuff and our feeling coming back from the industry as well on how we believe that the future QS should be educated and trained. But let's take that debate at 12:05. We now have Animesh from MagiCAD, and I guess I can hand straight over to you, Animesh, and you can kick off and tell us what it is you want to present.
Yeah, sure. Can you hear me? Okay, great. So Ross, thanks for that introduction, and thanks to everyone who's attending today. The topic of my presentation, it's a bit long. It says creating opportunities for successful adoption of BIM solutions for estimators and quantity surveyors. So moving on from Gervase's presentation, which was focused more on the student and digital skill side of things, I'm going to talk more about the industry as it is. So my name is Animesh Sourabh. I'm with a company called MagiCAD. We provide BIM solutions to contractors to help for their pre-construction and their construction teams. So you would have seen from the topic of my presentation, it's a very, very specific problem that I'm looking at. And the motivation for this paper and the presentation started about 6-7 months back, because in my role, I talk to estimators and quantity surveyors all the time. And, you know, sometimes you have a thought, you look at the technology, you think, oh, it's going to change the world. And when you go in a conversation, you're pitching your product, you get the response, meh, yeah, it's okay. So that really came as a surprise, because I was thinking, oh, well, I've made certain assumption in terms of the responses I'll get from my discussions, but you know, that wasn't the case. So I was thinking, okay, well, you know, I do need to do something here just to make sure that I understand the market better. So I sent out a survey to about 35, 40 QS estimators that I'd spoken to. And I said, look, I'm just trying to understand where the industry is at with the use of BIM solutions. I mean, what are the barriers to adoption, if any? And how can we come up with some recommendations to help you guys overcome these barriers? So I got the results in both papers, submitted it to CETA. Thanks to CETA, they gave me a chance to present the results today. But essentially, these are the three things that I was trying to get more information about from my survey. So, I mean, as I was doing the survey, as I was looking at the results, it became apparent to me that I can't really look at the whole group as one entity. I do have to think of them in three different audience groups. So what I did, I divided them in three different groups. The first is, it says here, use BIM. So people who are actually already using BIM solutions for estimating quantity surveying. The second is have considered BIM. So people or groups or group who have thought about a solution. They've come close to making investment, but they haven't for whatever reasons. And the third is have not considered BIM. This is the group. They're like, you know, it's not for me. It's not my cup of tea. I'm not interested. Thank you. So let's look at the results from the first group. So you'll see that there's a graph here. It says at the bottom, reasons for investing. The question I'd asked was, well, why did you invest in the BIM solution? What was the motivation for you? And if you look at the results here, so the reason that came out on the top was improving productivity, not a surprise. And the second most important reason was reducing risk. Ross, you touched upon risk reduction in your presentation. So it is something that I need to explore further, because, you know, I didn't delve into what constitutes risk. You know, what are some of the things that could be risky? My guess is that if you're thinking about estimators, risk could be to do with overestimating. So if you're overestimating, you might lose out on tenders, or underestimating, because if you're doing that, you might lose out on profits, you might lose money on your projects. So it was, Ross and Elia, it was quite interesting to see from your presentations that you're trying to solve some of that. So, okay, well, the next obvious question was, you guys know why you're using the BIM solution. You are using a BIM solution. Are you actually benefiting from it? Do you see the results that you're after? So got some interesting, I mean, so, you know, so I already had the survey results. So I was thinking, okay, well, look, if someone is not happy with the solution they're using, they might as well just consider an alternative. But if they are, is there an opportunity to them build on that BIM setup? Is there an opportunity for them to expand the use of BIM solutions, or to say unlock commercial opportunities that were not available in the past? So, for example, if you look at the improving productivity part, we came up with the recommendation, well, you already know you're more productive. Is there a way you can quantify that? So, for example, let's say if you know that you're saving a certain amount of man hours, can you add a number to that, financial number? I mean, the idea is that if this group went to the managing directors, the decision makers, and said, look, we think we are benefiting from this product. Can we get more licenses, or can we expand the use to more users? So you are backing that argument with numbers rather than saying, oh, well, we think we're doing a good job. Can we invest more money in it? And the second thing that this group would also do is show to the management, or signal to the management, is that they are serious about it. They are serious about investing in expanding the use of it. And the way they can do it is by having a training and onboarding plan. So say, Gervase, if a student has just graduated, comes into a company, they might not have those digital skills. As you said, there's a gap in the market that we've identified. If there is a solid training and onboarding plan, then this group is ensuring that this new user is getting up and running with the new solution and is likely to succeed as an individual and contribute to the team's success as well. So these are some things that this group can do to, as I said, make a case for expanding the use of that BIM solution, improving upon the existing BIM setup. But is there also an opportunity for them to unlocking commercial projects that were not available? And I mean in terms of having conversation with clients and showing to them that with the BIM setup they have, they're not only reducing, sorry, you'll have to give me 1 second, just give me 1 second.
You're muted there, Animesh.
Apologies, my laptop just told me it's running out of battery. Yeah, so getting back to the presentation, I was saying, is there an opportunity for this group to have conversations with clients and show to them that with their BIM setup, they're not only reducing risk for themselves, but they're also in a position to reduce risk for the client, which means that they'll give them a chance to have conversation with those clients and use their BIM setup to get more opportunities, they get more projects or get more new clients than they were able to in the past. So that's some of the recommendations for the first group. If I now look at the second group, people who have considered using BIM solution in the past. So if you look at, I mean, I show a pie chart here, and the top two problems that they talk about is, again, reducing risk and addressing low productivity. So results not very different from the first group. So it shows that the problems that they're trying to solve are very similar to the reasons why the first group invested in the BIM solution. So I asked the question, okay, well, you have identified the problems you want to solve. You probably already know a BIM solution you're interested in. Why did you not invest? And their answer was, well, I think it's too costly. I think the decision makers won't sign off on this technology. And the second was no time to get up to speed, which was quite interesting because in my mind it gave the impression that there's probably some correlation between these two. So say if you think a solution is too costly, you go to the management, you say, look, I think we need to invest in the tool. You make that argument, you get the solution in. But if you say your team is too busy getting tendered out, working on projects, you probably won't be able to invest the time to learn the solution, which means that it's just lost money. So could these two reasons be working together, why this group is a bit hesitant? And as a solution, what we're recommending, we're saying, look, if you think of this solution as a cost, then yes, there is a problem. It'll be difficult to make that case to the management. But what about if you turn the conversation, turn the argument from cost to an investment? Because what you're essentially doing, you're investing in a solution and you're reaping rewards, which means you're getting a return on that investment. So is there a chance for this group to do so? So understanding problems they're solving, understanding what benefits the solution will bring to the team, quantifying that, going to the management, having that data-oriented conversation, and getting the nod from them. And the second, to deal with no time to get up to speed, yes, it is a valid problem. I've seen in I've realized that estimators, quantity surveyors, they're a busy lot. So is there a chance for them to pick one person from their team, appoint them as a BIM champion, say, look, if you make this investment, you learn this technology, and then it's your responsibility to teach everyone else in the team. So again, you're signaling to the management saying, look, we're serious about this. We have a plan in place. We've got a BIM champion. And we know that if you invest in a solution, the money won't go to waste because we will ensure that you have one user and then gradually you have other users who will take up on this technology. And one of the best things about this setup is, you know, I read this somewhere, that you're more likely to adopt a new technology if you see someone else, like a colleague, using it and benefiting from it. So probably that's something that this group can work on to overcome the time barrier. And the third group is, they are very, very clear. They're like, look, you're not interested, not a cup of tea. But yes, if there are some changes in the market, then we might consider it. So there was, they came back to me with responses like, if it's a tender requirement, we don't have a choice. We have to produce BIM outputs. So which means we'll probably need a technology as such. But we do need BIM models. We do need to see BIM models coming in quite regularly. And as and when that happens, we also want these BIM models to have cost-related data attached to them. Because, you know, we get a BIM model, doesn't have a lot of cost data attached to it. It's you know, it's not usable for us. So what they're saying is, as long as the market conditions change and we can see these three things happening, we are happy to consider an investment. So again, not much I can say, not much we could recommend, because it's based on market conditions. But again, is there a chance for clients to play a role here? So say they made it a tender requirement, means anyone tendering for the project has to have some form of BIM outputs available, otherwise they lose out on the project. Or could they work, or the clients could ask their design team to make BIM models available for most of the projects, if not all. And also give a chance to these contractors to say, look, if you want to have a conversation with our designers, please do, and tell us what data do you need in a BIM model so we can make it usable for you. So yeah, I mean, you can't really do much with this group, but as I was saying, could clients play a role here in terms of giving an external push to this group to get over some of these hurdles that they talk about? So just to conclude, we have looked at these three groups, and if you happen to be in the first group, we're saying expand on a BIM setup, commercialize, unlock new opportunities, have those conversations with clients that you previously didn't have access to. If you have considered BIM, then try and find ways to justify it to management, try and show them that we have a plan in place, so that if you do get access to a BIM technology, you know that you can use it to your advantage. You can generate a return on that investment. And then the third group, as I said, they need an external push potentially from a client to start thinking about using BIM technologies. So that's all from me. Again, thank you for sitting through the presentation. I'm Animesh. You can find more about our solutions on our website, or you can find me on LinkedIn and drop me a message. But thanks again. Thank you for patience.
Super stuff, Animesh. Very interesting. We have a few questions that have come through, but I'm guessing that you guys also have questions for each other as well. So I'm just going to start off with some of the questions that have come in from the audience, and one in particular here is an interesting one, and this is a forever-ending debate. The attendee says, I heard in 1990 in QS 2000 event in RICS HQ the demise of QSs and his and her role in measuring. Here we are 30 years later and we're still very relevant. What is your vision for the future in QSing? I think we'll all have an opinion on that, I guess. But if any of you guys want to go ahead on that one, I have my answer already. But maybe Gervase from the University of Ulster, how would you see? How would you relate to that? I guess.
Well, the same thing was said to me on a plane going to the United States back in 1986. I was just ending my placement year, and I was going before I went back into final year, and got sitting beside this guy who wasn't from Newry, and he asked me what I was doing. I said I was doing quantity surveying. What do you want to be a quantity surveyor? So they're going to be a thing of the past next 4 or 5 years. So here we are, 35 years later, and quantity surveying is still relevant. I think Absolutely. It is important, because in order to cost anything, you need to quantify it. And people might say the bill of quantities is now redundant, but somebody somewhere needs to put a quantity against something to get an output in terms of labor, plant, materials to come up with a cost. You need to quantify in order to evaluate and pay people for doing work. So it's still relevant. And I know in Northern Ireland we've moved away from traditional tendering where the contractor gets drawing specification and bill of quantities. Have moved largely to design and build, but there's still a need to quantify. The contractor needs to take on the role of quantification in order to cost the work. So it's still relevant, and even if they put that into packages to send out to their subcontractors, subcontractors need to quantify it. So it's still relevant. The skill of quantification, be it done manually or be it done digitally, is still relevant. The understanding of costs and cost management within the construction process is still relevant.
I think the literal definition of quantity surveying maybe is diversing and changing. As BIM and as Animesh is saying, as BIM develops and the quality of BIM, the quantity surveyor won't be quantifying anymore, they'll be qualifying. So maybe the terminology that we use today will be different in the future. We'll be qualifiers and evaluators and data analysts rather than quantity surveyors in the traditional ruler and paper sense. But I don't think our profession is going away. What I do think, though, is that it is changing, and we need to get in front of that change if we want to direct it. And we also have to understand that quantity surveying is a very small global discipline. There's only a few countries in the world that actually teach it. Most of Europe doesn't have quantity surveyors. So we are an exported, valuable discipline to the global market. So we have to bear that in mind as well. So I don't think we're going anywhere in the next near future. I have a question for you, Animesh, talking about BIM and tendering, and your third choice or your third result there was related to companies that won't adopt BIM processes unless they are forced to through tender material. But is it not too late at that stage? If you're adapting BIM due to a tender requirement, do you have the knowledge to actually deliver on that requirement if you have never taken it up before?
Yeah, I mean, that's a valid question. Probably something I should have explored further. But the way I see it is, let's say if it's the case that the market moves, you get access to more BIM models, you get access to better BIM models. And as a contractor, you get an impression that, you know what, I'm starting to lose out on these opportunities. I'm starting to lose out on tenders. And just because I don't have that BIM setup. So it'll get them to realize that. And what they can potentially then do is, rather than setting up a BIM, starting a BIM setup from scratch, they can just hire someone from the other two groups. They can say, hey, I'll bring someone who's got the know-how and the experience, and he can guide us what technologies to think about, what to invest in.
Absolutely.
But that's the thing. Like, the market is driving, and market is a very powerful force, driving force for changes.
Mm-hmm. And in some respects, I guess it's inevitable. This BIM thing is not going away, and either is the digitization of our industry. I'm afraid it's here to stay. As you said, Gervase 4.0 is here, and it is moving quite quickly. So, Elia, we have a question from one of the attendees. Is it already possible to export data from 3D models to a costing software? I guess you have a very strong opinion on this.
The question is, yes, you can export data now. What data are we talking about? And if we consider BIM as a whole, I do think that the 3D model is just very, very small piece of the puzzle that is developed along the entire life cycle of your building. So when are you extracting that data? And what about all the data that is left aside that is not necessarily on the digital twin? I consider 3D model as the basis for your design. but it will fit with a lot of information that is not necessarily embedded on the 3D model itself. It's information that is connected to it, because you have been using naming conventions and coding systems to make that traceability and that interconnection between all the pieces of your puzzle. So the 3D model is just a very, very small part of it. You can export the information. The important thing is what you do with the information you have extracted and how do you utilize it. And as quantity surveyors, you know, the answer to that is your output will always be as good as the information you receive. And that's the same 3D, 2D, text, paragraphs, spreadsheets, whatever you receive. If that's wrong, if that needs to be qualified, your output will be also dragging in all those mistakes. So the important thing is like, don't waste time using trying to spend time on doing things that can be digitally, and spend that time on qualifying it, as you were mentioning, Ross. It became a qualifier, not only a quantifier.
So we would say actually the quantity surveyors of the future are the architects and engineers that build our models for us. You can take that home.
I don't think so. I think we'll be part of the team. So they will have their skill set, and we will contribute to that as another piece of the puzzle. It will be a collaborative process more than relying on someone without data specialization to produce information for you. I think it's a collaborative process where everybody with their specializes and their specific requirements will fit in.
Very interesting. Gervase, I'm going to jump back to you again and talk about this quantity surveyor of the future, the digital QS, and your analysis of existing students and perhaps the future for the students. One of the things that we have noticed is that, of course, Excel is a main tool for a quantity surveyor today in their process. What we recognize sometimes is the skill level of understanding Excel as a deep tool that it is, in terms of the macros it can create, pivot tables, data analytics, and so on. Is that something that you are focusing on in the University of Ulster in the future?
It is. We obviously have to look at the perspective in terms of using the generic software, and Excel is probably the lead software in terms of using its functionality for the quantity surveyor, the estimator. And most of our students that will come back from placement, they're not using bespoke software. They've been using spreadsheets that have been set up to exploit Excel in terms of cost data, being able to abstract information from drawings, etc. So it seems to be the lead software, particularly within contracting organizations, in terms of managing data. Whereas maybe in the consultancy practices, they're using Qubit, they're using Costex, they're using Causeway, etc. But in the contracting and subcontracting industries, yes, they're using Excel, and there is a demand for students to be very proficient in terms of using Excel to its full capabilities.
So Elia, jump in there.
I have a question then in that regard, Gervase, because we are focusing on the estimates and the budgets, which is also is the main core. But what about all the risk logs and change management and value management information that is generated across the project that is also managed on spreadsheets, and all that is like loose ends, right? It doesn't really go to anywhere more than staying there as a log. And
this is probably where we're going to have to look more at looking at the data, and data analytics is going to become increasingly important within the quantity surveying profession and within construction generally. And the ability to use that data, as and when it arises, and maybe then also to look at it retrospectively in terms of key performance indicators, in terms of improving the process going forward. Probably construction has been a wee bit lax, and I think maybe you've touched on it, Ross, there, in terms of using the data that's generated productively is going to be key. And that's, as well as introducing more digitization into the course, we're going to have to look at issues sort of managing data and using the data and analyzing the data.
Super. And Animesh, I've got the last one for you. So it sounds like you're going to get the closing comment. I have a question from one of the attendees. If we place a requirement to embed costs in the 3D models, I have a response to this also. Aren't we risking leaving aside the impact on cost of all those elements that are not in the digital twin? Elia mentioned it a little bit before. For example, subjective concepts, logistics, risks, overheads, contingencies, allocated cost, and provisional allowances. Good question. And
yeah, I mean, in my case, because I was looking at a very specific problem, you know, so I don't really have an answer to that. So I agree with the point that Elia has made there. But essentially, when I said that the BIM model should have the cost data, what I'm saying is that the BIM model should have all the information required, say for an estimator, to extract the information in some meaningful way. Because BIM models can be of different types, can be of different qualities. But you are kind of missing out on opportunities for estimators, quantity surveyors, if you don't integrate that data right up front.
Absolutely. And I'll give you a little exercise that we did. So we analyzed a project that we've worked on, and we work on BIM projects the whole time. Most of our projects are BIM. And if you take the building direct works themselves, we only model 60 to 70% of the cost in the 3D models. Now, if you take the entire project value, including client costs, contingencies, design fees, we only model 40% of the cost within our models. So just to take that home,
we're now you go to the entire life cycle, right? The entire life cycle, operation, maintenance, end of life, you know, etc.
So lots to talk about, and we could keep going, I guess, but we're not allowed. Sita have pressed the button, and I'm afraid we're out of time. But I'd like to thank all our presenters for today, and also you guys attending the conference. And last but not least, Sita, thank you very much for the invite, and we hope we can do it again soon.
Thanks for hosting, Ross.
Thank you very much.